to a new video. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make all of these super cute scarves. And what's special about this video is that I'm going to be showing you how to make the perfect scarves with the perfect techniques. These are all my original patterns. So if you recreate them and post them on social media, feel free to tag me. I would absolutely love to see your results. So these are the materials that you'll be needing. And here are the abbreviations. So most of the stitches that I will be using are super beginner friendly. Only the star has the more complicated stitches. But if you're a beginner, after some practice, you'll definitely be able to do it. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to make a loop. And you want to make sure that this part isn't too long, because it's going to end up being the fringe of the scarf at the end. So now I'm just going to insert my hook into the loop. I'm going to tighten like so. And now you want to do 4 chains. So now you're going to tighten the 4th chain so that way the scarf looks even at the end. And now for round 1, you want to do 3 single crochets into the last 3 chains. And before you do the single crochets, you want to make sure this part is really tight. So I'm holding my yarn really tight and I'm just going to do the single crochet. So I'm going to go into the 2nd chain from the hook. And I'm just going to do the single crochet. And I'm just going to do the 2 leftover ones. Like so, and now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to tighten that chain. This is really important so that way the scarf looks really nice and even at the end. And now for round 2, just going to repeat round 1, so 3 single crochets. And I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to tighten that up. So as you can see, it's a super easy process. So now we're going to do the remaining round, and as always, I'm just going to repeat the process. And it's also really important to tighten this part after you've tightened the chain. And yeah, just keeping that in mind, you're just going to do the rest. And feel free to try on your scarf as you're going. Again, if you're using like a different sized yarn, you might want to do more or less rows. It doesn't really matter how many more rows you add. You can just do whatever you prefer. Okay, so to finish the base of the scarf, you're going to go into the last single crochet. Then you're going to chain 1. Tighten that up, and you're going to chain another one and make sure it's really nice and tight. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and try it on again. This is what 35 rows looks like now. Coca looks super cute, and that's basically it. So now I'm going to go ahead and just cut the yarn. So we really don't have to leave much because it's going to be part of the fringe. So I was a little bit extra here, but if you want, you can just like cut it through the loop so it's not this long. And there we go. This is what the scarf is looking like so far. Now the last step is to make the fringe. And for that step, you want to take your yarn and you're going to cut strands that are approximately 7 centimeters long. And basically there's 3 options. So you can cut 3 of these for each side and it will end up looking like this. As you can see, it's not super fluffy, but I think it looks really nice. And I also made them a little bit shorter. Or if you want, you can cut 6 of these per side and it just looks way fluffier. If you want, you can also do different colors like I did here. And yeah, so basically if you want to do it like this, you would have to cut out 6 per side. And if you want to do it like this, you have to cut 3 of these per side. So I'm just going to do the simple style, so I'm just going to cut 6 of these total. And a trick to cut them out a little bit quicker is to just cut a strand that is 14 centimeters long. And then you're just going to fold this strand in half. And you're just going to cut this through the middle. And I find this goes a little bit quicker than cutting each individual strand. So I'm going to repeat this 2 more times. So now all of my strands are ready, and now we're going to attach them to the scarf. So as you can see, we did 3 stitches, right? So I'm going to go into the first one like that, and I'm going to take one of my strands. I'm going to take the yarn right in the middle like this, and I'm going to pass it through the stitch like that. I'm still holding the ends right here, and then I'm going to yarn over this same piece of yarn, and I'm going to go through the loop like this, pulling these 2 strands through. And now we created this knot right there, and I'm just going to pull it tight to make sure it doesn't come undone. And there we go, we have the first part of our fringe. Now I'm just going to repeat this 2 more times. I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate it again. So I'm going to hold my strand of yarn like this. I'm going to take the yarn right in the middle with the hook. Again, I'm still grabbing the ends right here. I'm going to pull it through the stitch. Now it should look like this. Now I'm going to grab these 2 strands of yarn, I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pass them through the loop. It can be a little bit tricky, but once you practice it enough, it's actually really easy. And now I pull these 2 strands to make sure that the knot is nice and tight. And one more time. And if you notice that it's a little bit tricky, feel free to make the strands a little bit longer. I just find this is a good size, so that way you don't end up wasting too much yarn. So now this part is done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. And this is how it looks like now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make the fringe really nice and even. And you're just going to cut them to whatever length you want. If you want, you can just keep it at this length. But as you can see, some of them are a little bit uneven. And what I like to do is to take them all and then twist them a little bit. And then I'll just cut them. As you can see, it's a lot more even now. I think I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. It's definitely a good idea though to cut it a little bit by little bit to make sure you don't go too short. And now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so I went ahead and I trimmed them down evenly. So I'm just going to go ahead and try it on Coca again stretching it out to make sure it's not too thick. Just wrapping it around. And yeah, this is the final result. I think it looks super cute. So there's different styles you can do for the scarf. So you can either do a crisscross like this and sew in the middle, or you can also just do a knot. And I will recommend a knot only for single colored scarves because the striped ones are a little bit thicker since you're working with 2 colors. So I wouldn't recommend doing the knot for this ones, only for these ones that are a little bit thinner. So if you want to know how to sew these styles, feel free to go to these timestamps. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to do the knot. So I would definitely recommend to use a longer scarf for this. This one is 35 rows. So to make the knot, you're basically going to place the skzoo kind of in the middle. I placed it slightly more to the left, but it doesn't really matter. And then you just basically want to do a knot. It's a little bit difficult to explain, so I'm hoping the video will help a little bit. Basically, I'm just taking this left one and kind of just putting it under the other one like that. And I'm just going to pull it. And then I'm going to bring this left one down. And it's not really difficult, you just have to put everything into place. And then I'm going to go ahead and just organize the top a little bit. I'm super happy with the result. Coca looks so cute and cozy. And yeah, now let's move on to the next scarf. Okay, so now we're going to do the candy cane scarf. So I'm going to be starting with white. I'm going to go ahead and make a loop. I'm going to make sure that this leftover strand isn't too long because we're going to end up cutting it for the fringe. And I'm going to insert my hook and tighten the yarn. And now we're going to go ahead and do 4 chains. So I yarn over and pull through the loop. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten this 4th chain to make sure that the scarf is nice and even at the end. And you want to make sure that the yarn here on your hook isn't too loose either. So first we're going to do a single crochet in the 2nd chain from the hook. So we're going to go into the chain, grab some yarn and pull through. And then I'm just going to go through both loops. And I'm going to do it again. And now while crocheting the third single crochet, we're going to go ahead and change colors. So I'm going to have my red yarn ready. I'm going to go into the third chain. I'm going to take some yarn and pull through. And now as you can see I have 2 loops, and instead of pulling through both loops with the white yarn, I'm going to take the red yarn. And there's probably other ways to do it, but this is how I like to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit of yarn at the end here. I'm going to take it with my hook, and I'm holding these 2 strands with my hand right here to create some tension. And I'm going to go through both loops with the red. And now I'm going to take both strands and I'm going to pass them through the loop like this. And I'm going to tighten it by pulling both. And now both colors are connected. So when we connected the red, we basically did a chain 1. So now we're going to go ahead and turn around. So now for round 2, I'm going to keep this short white one right here because it's going to be part of the fringe. So I'm going to go ahead and go into this first stitch. I'm going to make sure that the white yarn is still here in the middle. I'm going to go into the first stitch. So this is a little bit tricky, but you want to place the short red strand and the white strand right here where your stitches are. Now I'm going to grab my long strand of red yarn. I'm going to pull through and I'm just going to crochet my single crochet like I would usually do it. As you can see, we're weaving in these 2 strands. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. And you're basically just crocheting the single crochets as usual. The only difference is that these 2 strands are here in the middle. And now we are on the third one. So now I'm going to change color. I'm going to grab my white long strand. I'm going to yarn over and then I'm going to pull through both loops. And now I'm going to chain 1. And it's super important that these chains are super tight to make sure that the scarf is nice and even at the end. So now I'm going to turn. So now we're going to do round 3. And make sure that your yarn is really tight on your hook. Again, so that way the scarf is nice and even at the end. That's how you get the perfect scarf. And I'm going to grab both of my red strands here. And I'm going to weave them in while I crochet the white single crochets. So we're going to do 2. And then on the third one, we're going to change color. So I go ahead and pull up a loop. And now I'm going to pull through with the red. And then I'm going to chain 1 and make that super tight. You want to make sure that you also hold the white strand. So you're basically pulling both. And when you do this, you're basically getting rid of all these bumps on the side. So make sure you always pull both. And I'm going to turn. So I think this is where I'm going to cut this short strand at the end. So I'm going to just leave it here. And I'm going to keep weaving in the white one. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets. And then on the third one, we change color. So I pull up a loop, and then I change color, go through both loops, and then I'm going to chain 1 with white, make that really tight, also make this red stitch really tight, and then I'm going to pull the white yarn, and I'm going to turn. And these are basically the steps that you want to keep repeating until you've reached 35 rounds. So this is how it's looking so far, and I should warn you guys that the yarn does get a little bit twisted. You could technically fix the issue by just, instead of twisting like this the whole time, maybe twisting to the right for the first round and then twisting to the left, but I find it's a little bit more difficult to weave in the color that you're not crocheting with. So honestly, I just like turning it in one direction, and every so often you can go ahead and unravel it so it doesn't annoy you. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and just keep crocheting the rest of the rounds. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and crochet the last round. So you do 2 single crochets. Now for the last one, instead of changing color, you're just going to do the single crochet as you usually would. So all white, and I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. So that's the first chain, make it really tight. And I'm going to chain again just to make sure it's really secure. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the white yarn. It really doesn't have to be long since it's going to be part of the fringe. So I'm just going to go in here and just cut it. And I can just remove the white yarn. And then for the red yarn, if you want it to be super secure, you can go ahead and weave it in and then like make a knot. Or you can just go ahead and cut it like this. That's what I'm going to do. Just going to pull it a little bit and trim it. And then just by stretching it out a little bit, it kind of goes back in. And then I'm also going to cut this red strand from the beginning. Again, if you want, you can go ahead and weave it in, but I am just going to cut it off. So I did cut it, and as you can see, I do have this leftover bit here. But this is going to be the front of the scarf, and this is going to be the back, so you won't be able to see this. And yeah, we basically finished the base of the scarf. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out a little bit to make sure it's not like too thick. And now I'm going to go ahead and try it on the skzoo. As you can see, it looks super cute. I am so obsessed. I love this candy cane pattern. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the fringe of the scarf. And there's basically 2 options. You can either use 2 strands per knot, so you have like a nice and fluffy little fringe. Or you can just do 1 strand per knot. And it doesn't look as fluffy, but it also looks really nice. So if you want your fringe to look like this, you want to cut 3 red strands and 3 white strands for each side. So in total it would be 12 strands. But if you only want to do 1 color and you don't want it as fluffy, you can go ahead and just prepare 3 strands of that color for each side. So in total you would need 6 of them. So again, as I said before, I want to do 2 colors and I want it to be really fluffy, so I'm going to go ahead and cut 12 strands total. And basically 6 of each color. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a 15 centimeter strand, and then I'm going to cut it in half again. So it's going to be approximately 7.5 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut it, and then I'm going to fold this one and cut it in half. I find this goes a lot faster than cutting them individually. And I would recommend to test and see if you can do the fringe, because maybe it might be a little bit too small for you. Personally, I think this is a perfect size so that way you don't waste too much yarn. However, if it's like your first time doing this, it might be a little bit tricky because it is a little bit short. So if you struggle with this, you can go ahead and make them a little bit longer if you want. Okay, so now all my strands are ready, and now we're going to go ahead and do the fringe. So I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate it again. So first you're going to go through the stitch with your hook. Then I'm going to grab a red strand and a white one. I'm going to put them together. And if you want, you can go ahead and create a loop and just grab it like this. Or you can go ahead and stretch it out like I'm doing, like this. Whatever is more comfortable for you. And then you pull through the stitch like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab all 4 strands and pass it through this loop. Like so. Don't worry if you accidentally didn't pass all of them through the loop. You can just go ahead and go back in, grab it, and then just pull it through. Like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and just tighten it. And I would recommend to change the way you organize your strands. So I will do red at the bottom and white at the top, and then white at the bottom and red at the top to make sure the colors are kind of mixed, because otherwise one color just ends up peeking through more. But if you do like that, then feel free to keep the order the same. And I'm going to repeat that step again 2 more times for each stitch. So I grab both colors, pull it through the stitch, and then I just pass these 4 strands through the loop, like so. And then I'm just going to pull them all to make the knot tight. So far it's looking really nice. Something that helps if you're struggling a little bit is to make this loop a little bit more loose, so that way you can easily pass the 4 strands through. Now I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this on the other side. And now the fringe is done, so now we're going to go ahead and trim it because it looks a little bit crazy. So what I like to do is to hold it together and twist it a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and trim it. And then as you can see, this is a little bit longer, so I'm going to twist it again. And I'm going to trim those long strands. I'm going to keep trimming them until they are the desired length. Okay, so this is the final result. Now let's try it on Puppy M. And this is what it looks like. It looks super cute. And now we're going to go ahead and sew it down so that way it doesn't move. There's also these 2 other styles that you can try out. However, because the scarf is a lot thicker because we used two colors, when you try out this style, you can actually kind of see where the scarf is overlapping, which I feel like doesn't look so good. But maybe if you use like a thinner yarn, maybe it won't look too bad. But if you'd like, feel free to try out the suggested styles and see if they work out for you. The timestamps for the tutorials are right here. So for this scarf, I'm going to teach you how to sew it like this. You basically want to move it a little bit and see where you want to position the ends of the scarf. Once you're happy with it, you go ahead and take a stitch marker and you're going to kind of stab both layers with it, like so, and I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now I'm going to go ahead and take it off the skzoo. So now I'm going to grab my crochet sewing needle and a 20 centimeter string of yarn. I would recommend using white so that way you can see the stitches. And now I'm going to go ahead and do a knot here, like that, and now we're ready to sew. So you want to go ahead and reposition your scarf because it does move around a little bit, but the stitch marker does help. So now I'm going to start sewing. So first I'm going to do my stitch right here. So I'm going to go through both layers through the back, like this, and I'm going to leave about 7 centimeters of the string so it doesn't come off. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back down, and I'm making sure that I'm sewing where the white part is to make sure you don't see these stitches. And you want to make sure you don't pull too tight because first of all, you might end up completely removing the thread. And second of all, you might be able to see the stitches because the scarf is going to be a little bit sunken down because of the pressure of the stitch. So it's really important not to make the stitch too tight. And I'm going to do a stitch where I just did this one. So I came up and I'm going to go back down like this. Again, making sure we don't pull too tight, just enough so you don't see it. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this part down. So I'm going to insert my needle again through the back, making sure that I'm still sewing on the white part. And then I'm going to go back down on the stitch next to it. And I'm kind of freestyling here, so feel free to do whatever is more comfortable for you. I'm going to go ahead and do a second one. So now I'm going to go ahead and try it on puppy hem and see if it fits alright. I still haven't cut this string off, okay, so we're just testing. Since we already did most of the sewing, I'm going to remove the stitch marker. So this is what it looks like now, and I'm really happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and just finish it. So you want to make sure that the thread ends up being on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and create a loop, so that way we can just secure the yarn. So I'm going to go into the closest loop to where we last brought the thread back. So I'm going to go into this loop right here. I'm just going to pass the yarn through it. Like that. Now we have this loop, and now I'm going to go through it with my needle. I accidentally also took this one. Pull that out, and I'm just going to pull it to make a knot, make that super tight, and then I'm going to repeat that exact same process going through the same loop just to make sure it's super nice and secure. And I'm going to pull super tight again, and now I'm going to go ahead and just cut it off. I like to leave a little bit to make sure it doesn't come undone. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat that exact same step with this leftover strand. And if you would like, you can go ahead and just weave it in differently, but this is what I like to do to make sure it's super secure. And you're not going to see this side anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And now we are finished. So just going to put it back on puppy hem through the bottom. So I felt like the fringe was a little bit long, so I went ahead and cut it down a little bit. And that's obviously totally optional, I just wanted it to be a little bit shorter. And this is what the back looks like. And yeah, this is the final result. I'm super happy with it. So now let's move on to the next scarf. So for this next scarf, I'm going to be doing a green base. And you're basically going to crochet a simple base for the scarf. So because it doesn't have the striped pattern, it's a lot easier to do. And I'm just going to show you how to make this quickly. If you want a more detailed explanation, feel free to go to this timestamp. So first thing you want to do is you want to do 4 chains. And then you're going to tighten the 4th one. And I'm going to pull my yarn back to make sure that the yarn on the hook is also tight. Not too tight where you can't move it anymore, but it needs to be tight enough so that way the stitch isn't loose at the end. And now I'm going to do 3 single crochets. And now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to tighten that chain. This is really important to make sure that the scarf is nice and even at the end. and then you want to turn, and then for round 2 I'm going to do 3 single crochets, and then I'm going to chain 1, make it really tight, and then you want to make sure you pull the yarn back again, and then you go ahead and turn and do the rest of these single crochets. And yeah, as you can see, it's a super simple and easy process. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do 35 rounds total. Okay, so I'm at the end of round 35. I'm going to go into the last single crochet like that, and now I'm going to go ahead and chain 2 to make sure it doesn't come undone. And I'm going to cut it kind of long so that way we can weave it into the scarf. I would say it's about like 12-15 centimeters long. And now we have the base of the scarf. So now let's go ahead and do the stars. So now I'm going to teach you how to make the star. I went ahead and took off my nails so that way you would be able to see what I'm doing, because making the star can be a little bit tricky. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a magic loop. However, you want to leave quite a long string at the beginning, because with this string we're going to be sewing it on the scarf. So I'm going to leave about 15 centimeters. So I'm going to make my magic loop up high right here. And to make the magic loop, I'm basically going to wrap it around my fingers like this, cross it over. And now I'm going to insert my hook underneath, take this strand, and then I'm just going to chain 1. Now you want to do 5 single crochets into the magic ring. Make sure you don't make them too tight. And now I'm going to go ahead and close the circle. Now I'm going to go into the first single crochet that we made, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. And I'm going to tighten it. Now for round 2, this can be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to explain it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to do a double crochet into the same stitch where we did the slip stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, go back into the same single crochet where we did the slip stitch. I'm going to take some yarn, pull it through, and as you can see I have 3 loops now. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And then I'm going to yarn over again and pull through the last 2. And now we have a double crochet. And as you can see, this is a double crochet right here. And as you can see, there is this part of a double crochet where I can put my needle through. And that is where we're going to do the half double crochet. So basically I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into the double crochet right here. Then I'm going to yarn over again, go through that. And I should have 3 loops on your hook. And I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Just like that. And now to finish off this corner, I'm going to do a slip stitch into the same stitch where we did the double crochet. So I'm going to go into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then I'm just going to do a slip stitch and pull it tight. And that's the first corner. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate it again. So yarn over, go into the next single crochet, to a double crochet, and then you have this space from double crochet. You want to do a half double crochet in there, like that, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the same stitch where you did the double crochet and make it tight. Again, double crochet into the single crochet. Then you do a half double crochet in the double crochet. And then you're going to do a slip stitch into the same stitch where you did the double crochet. And now I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 2 more times. Once you did the last slip stitch, I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and pull it really tight to finish. And now I'm going to cut the strand, make it really nice and long. I'm just going to pull this. And now we are finished with the crocheting part. I'm going to just go ahead and pinch each corner so it looks more like a star. It's so cute. So since these 2 corners look a little bit separated, we're going to sew them together. And we're also going to bring both of these strings together, just like this, so that way we can sew it onto the scarf. So for that, I'm going to grab the string that is on the outside. I'm going to put it through my crocheting needle, make a knot. And now I'm going to go into the right corner right here. And now I'm going to go into the left one, like that, and I'm going to go back into the right one, put through. I'm just going to go back one more time. And now this part is sewn together. Now I'm going to weave my yarn a little bit through the back, so that way we can get it closer to the middle strand. And as you can see now, they are together. So now I'm going to remove my yarn from the needle, and we are finally done. So my original idea was to put both of the stars like this, but I was just playing around a little bit and I actually like it more like this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it like that. But if you want, you can definitely go ahead and make a second one and you can just sew it on the ends. I think that is really cute too. Okay, so to create that hanging down effect, so the first step is to take your scarf and put it on your skzoo. And then I'm going to wrap it around its neck like this. Then I'm going to take the left side and I'm going to pinch it like this and then fold it over like that. And that's going to make it so that way it's facing downwards. And then you're going to take the other side and you're going to put it over and hold it like that. So since we folded this once, you should have a really thick layer like this. I want to make sure that this part is slightly above the rest, so that way it covers that bump. And I'm going to put my stitch marker through all of these layers and I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to take it off the skzoo. It does tend to unfold, so you just want to fold it back like this and then place it back like that, and then you just want to hold it while you're sewing. And here I have a 15cm thread that I'm going to use to sew it. So I'm going to put everything back into place just like this, and then I'm going to insert my needle through the back like this. And then I'm going to leave a 5cm strand at the end. I'm going to go back through another stitch. I'm going to gently pull it. And basically you want to repeat it once you feel that it is very nice and secure. I would do 3 stitches minimum on these corners. So it's going through the back and then through the front. So once you're done, you can remove your stitch marker. This is what mine is looking like so far. And now I'm just going to weave these 2 ends into the scarf. And this is the final result. So I went ahead and sewed it together. Now we just have to sew the scar on top. So I'm going to place it where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 strands through the needle. And I'm going to make a knot. Now I'm just going to go through this part. You can turn it however you want. I think I'm going to put it on like that. And basically you just want to sew it on by going back and forth. And then once you're done, I'm just going to make a knot right here by going into one loop. And then I have this loop, so I'm going to go through it like that. I'm going to repeat that step again, going into the same loop that I did before. Pull it really tight, and then I'm just going to cut the rest off. If you want, you can also just weave it into a scarf. And then the last step is to weave in this last strand. So here are all of these scarves. As you can see, they turned out super cute, and they also fit the Karma skzoos. I would just recommend to make them like 2 or 3 row or smaller, but technically if it fits the 10cm skzoos, it'll fit these ones as well. I put a lot of effort into this video, so I hope it was really helpful. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!